All right, let's talk about the never-ending dumpster fire that is emotional instability. The modern solution? Oh, just sprinkle some glitter on it and call it self-awareness. You're sad? Feel more. You're mad? Really lean into it. Stressed? Congratulations. You're just one yoga retreat away from enlightenment. Except you're not. You're shoveling coal into a runaway train, and it's heading straight off a cliff. Buckle up, kids. Here's the thing. Feelings are unstable. They're like toddlers on a sugar high. Constantly changing, unpredictable, and guaranteed to wreck your furniture if you let them run wild. One moment, you're on top of the world. The next, you're crying in your car because the McDonald's drive-thru forgot your fries. And yet, here we are, treating emotions like the holy grail of personal growth. Listen to your feelings, they say. Trust your emotions. Yeah, because making life decisions based on your mood at 2 a.m. after binging Netflix and downing half a bottle of wine has always worked out well, hasn't it? But the real kicker? People think the cure for emotional instability is more emotional instability. It's like trying to fight fire with gasoline and convincing yourself you're a firefighter. Pro tip, you're not. You're just someone holding a match while the house burns down. Here's where it gets darker. When people cut themselves off from external input and double down on their feelings, they don't just get stuck. They spiral. Like, welcome to the void, please keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times kind of spiral. Ever heard of a mental echo chamber? That's when someone becomes so wrapped up in their own thoughts and feelings that they can't see past them. Every emotion becomes gospel truth. Every fear becomes a prophecy. It's a self-reinforcing nightmare. And if you think that sounds a bit dramatic, guess what? That's exactly how the mind works when it's left unchecked. Take psychosis, for example. A person experiencing delusions can't reality check their thoughts. Why? Because they've lost the ability to absorb outside feedback. The same dynamic happens with narcissism. People become so disconnected from the perspectives of others that they build an entire worldview based on their own internal narrative. Spoiler, it's not a healthy one. Let's be clear about something. This is not healing. It's not spiritual. It's not progressive. And it sure as hell isn't enlightened. It's just chaos with a fancy label slapped on it. Real growth? That comes from grounding yourself in something bigger than your feelings. It means stepping out of your head long enough to hear other perspectives. It means reality checking your thoughts, even when it's uncomfortable. Because here's the ugly truth no one wants to admit. Feelings are great for flavor, but they're a terrible foundation. They're fleeting, ever-changing, and about as reliable as a weather forecast 3 weeks out. Build your life on them, and you'll be living in a house of cards during hurricane season. The timeless wisdom of follow your heart. Sounds great, doesn't it? Like something a Disney princess would sing about before making a series of catastrophically bad decisions. The problem is, when you're told to blindly follow your feelings, you're not unlocking some higher cosmic truth. You're just giving yourself permission to act like a toddler with a credit card. And let me tell you, toddlers aren't exactly known for their emotional maturity. When every decision boils down to how you feel in the moment, you're not making choices. You're indulging impulses. Got an urge to scream at someone? Go for it. Your heart says it's authentic. Feel like quitting your job because Karen in accounting didn't say good morning? Do it. Your emotions must be honored. Want to ghost your friends because they didn't validate your latest existential crisis? Absolutely, because boundaries, right? This is what happens when feelings become the ultimate authority. Self-justification central. Everything you do, no matter how irrational or destructive, gets a free pass because, hey, it's what your heart wanted. You're no longer accountable for your actions, and you get to paint yourself as a victim or a misunderstood visionary instead of just admitting you're being an ass. Here's the kicker. Following your heart doesn't just make you act like a toddler. It locks you into a never-ending loop of self-justification. Every bad decision, it's not bad. It's your truth. Every harmful action, it's not harmful, it's self-care. Every time someone calls you out, they're just toxic and don't understand your journey. This is how you end up in a life where no one can hold you accountable, including yourself. You rewrite every mistake, every failure, every selfish decision into some grand narrative about growth or authenticity. In reality, you're just spinning your wheels and refusing to admit when you're wrong. It's like a toddler throwing a tantrum in the cereal aisle because they want the frosted flakes right now. Except, instead of a parent stepping in and saying, "No, we're getting oatmeal," your inner voice is just standing there, clapping, saying, "Yes, King Queen, follow your heart." And then you wonder why your life feels like chaos. Real growth isn't comfortable. Let's get real. If your life philosophy is all about avoiding discomfort and chasing feelings, you're not growing, you're regressing. Growth comes from doing hard things, facing truths that hurt, and sometimes telling your heart to sit down and shut up. It means recognizing that just because you feel something doesn't make it true, valid, or worth acting on. Sure, your heart might tell you to flip the table and walk away from a hard conversation. But maturity says, sit your ass down and listen. Your heart might tell you to cut ties with someone because they criticized you. Maturity says, maybe they've got a point. The difference between a grown adult and an emotional toddler is the ability to pause, reflect, and act based on something more solid than fleeting feelings. It's about holding yourself accountable instead of rewriting the script every time your impulses lead you astray. Stop hugging tornadoes. Stop eating crayons. So next time someone tells you to follow your heart, take a second to think, are you following your heart, or are you just making excuses to stay comfortable, act out, or avoid responsibility? Because if it's the latter, congratulations, you're living the emotional equivalent of eating crayons and calling it art. Feelings are valid, sure, but they're not your North Star. They're the weather, useful to gauge, but absolutely terrible to navigate by. Grow up, step out of the self-justification loop, and start living a life built on something stronger than a toddler's whims. Your future self will thank you. The way out. If you want stability, stop clinging to the most unstable part of yourself. Start grounding yourself in things that don't change with the wind. Values, principles, and yes, actual reality. Listen to people who'll challenge your perspective, not just pat you on the back and say, "You're so brave for feeling this way." Brave? No, Brenda, you're just stuck. So stop chasing your feelings like they're the secret to happiness. They're not. They're just one piece of the puzzle, and trying to make them the whole picture will leave you staring at a chaotic mess. Get out of your head, get into the real world, and maybe, just maybe, you'll stop hugging tornadoes and start building something that lasts.